Mr. Lee,
Yeah, I love this drink.
where you put my bag
I like
at?
when you like this, Daddy.
Yeah, where you put my bag
Daddy,
at,
I like
Mr.
when
Lee?
you
Oh,
when you
it's right here,
scrambling
it's
and
right
scraping
here.
for shit.
He said something to me one time, a long time ago, at Chris Lighty's wedding. He told me to take me shopping. I looked at him like, what you just say?
About that. And he said you did the same thing to him. You asked him to take him shopping.
Yeah, I thought he needed some clothes.
Well, I guess that's the definition of the word irony.
So, where do we even begin? Where do we even start with this? The Diddy documentary series was a lot that I didn't know about. And it was so much, absolutely so much that I didn't even know about. Like regarding like the whole West Coast, East Coast beef. Now I knew plenty about it with the whole Biggie and Tupac. I knew plenty about it, but I didn't know like more of the details and the context of it, of how it happened, who was involved, and this and that. But it all makes a lot of sense. It all makes a lot of sense going back to what was said in the documentary about how Diddy always wanted everything to be about himself, right? Because let me see in my notes here. Let me see in my damn notes here. What's his name? Andre Harrell, right? Was his mentor, right? And he was under his wing for a little bit, right? After being introduced, because I think what was the story? Oh my god, I'm starting to forget. Heavy D. I think because he was going over to Heavy D's house, and Heavy D, I guess, introduced those two together, and then boom, he became his mentor, and then he was under his tutelage for a little while, and then that's when he started to, you know, get bigger, and he started to wanted to venture out on his own, and then eventually he got fired. Okay, boom, and then that's when he decided to make Bad Boy records and entertainment, and that's when he needed the funds to get that. So that's when Clive Davis come up. Now I remember Suge Knight actually talking about Clive Davis in an interview where he said that Clive Davis was the one that put him on to the whole, penetrating women and taking what's really his, and other things. That's what Shook said, right? And then also Russell Simmons was also mentioned in the documentary series, and I've heard stories about him too of taking people's booties. So it's like it was very interesting. The damn doc, it was just so fucking much that I had to like dissect it. I'm like, okay, this actually makes sense because you have Kirk, who was also somebody who used to work for Diddy. Actually, no, he was the co-founder of Bad Boy. I'm sorry, he was the co-founder. And fucking he was explaining about like, yeah, Diddy was basically essaying people back in 1999. Sorry, 92. He was doing this since 92. And then he had a best friend that he grew up with, which he was a close friend, a close brother, right? And all of this started was the whole idea of Diddy's father was, I guess, allegedly like a hustler or a gang member, right? And he gets killed off, and he never got a chance to meet his father. Now, there were stories and reports that his father actually knew Bumpy Johnson or may have worked with Bumpy Johnson, right? Now, if we're saying like back in the 70s, at the time, Bumpy died in the 60s. So if the father was maybe in his early 20s, right? I don't exactly know how old was the father when he died because they didn't really say how old he was, but I'm pretty sure anybody can look this up of how old he was. But if he was in his 20s, 30s, right, then there's a possibility that the father may have known Bumpy. But if not, then there's another possibility that maybe he might have known Frank Lucas. Who knows? But within Diddy's mind, he felt like he was the chosen one. Like if his father was a king, he needed to be a king, and almost trying to live up to a shadow figure that he's never seen, like a shadow that he's trying to catch that's not really, there to catch, right? And in his mind, he felt like, okay, he was exposed to an interest in life at his earlier age. His mother would always dress him up in these special fancy clothing, right? And she was trying to build him up to something that maybe she remembered her husband used to be like, or the boyfriend, whatever he was to her at the time, used to be like. And that's when he he always had a destiny. Like he always had a set path that he knew he wanted to get into. So he got into the whole music business, the dancing business, right? And then that's when, he's Bad Boy, and then him with all these other artists, I think the 26, and then I think Kalani Kane, right? Like he just started to move forward into the idea of what he wanted. But then here's where things get so fucked up. And it really had me thinking about all of this, that Diddy really, you can probably say without a shadow of a doubt that he was solely probably irresponsible for both Tupac and Biggie's death, because from what I've seen, it's like, okay, Shook had problems with Diddy. Tupac also had problems with Diddy. But here's the kicker. Diddy was jealous of Tupac's and Biggie's relationship, because besides like the whole West Coast East Coast beef, right? I think if anything, if they would have been alive to this day, they would have been the bestest friends. They would have been the absolute, because they didn't have any beef with each other. Even when Tupac was pissed off about everything, because he was like, oh yeah, they shot me, fuck Bad Boy, fuck Biggie too. Biggie did not want no smoke with Tupac, because he still saw him as a legitimate friend. He did not want any like problems with him. But you had that devil and Diddy that just kept on instigating, like, come on, Big, he's talking crazy about you. Come on, Big, you gotta say something. And that's all that it really was. He was just trying to incite more out of the whole situation because there was problems. And then for him to have had the Crips on his side, which makes sense, which would make sense that if Shook Knight was like rolling with the Bloods, then it would only make sense that Diddy would side with the Crips, right? He got an introduction to Keefe D, right? And that's when Keefe D was explaining also in the documentary that, yeah, I think it was him and his nephew, right? You know, because I think the nephew got jumped in the Las Vegas strip. Yeah, he got jumped in the casino, I should say, like around that area. And that's when they said, all right, we're going to figure out a way of getting to Tupac and Shook. But then that's when he claimed that, yeah, there was fans out there that was calling for Tupac. So he said, oh, jackpot, we're going to figure out where he's at. And that's when they eventually stolen Tupac's life. And he claimed that, yeah, he saw the bullet go in Shook's head, but Shook didn't die. So Shook lived and Tupac passes away, right? And then that's when Biggie in the video was also like, well, in the documentary, I should say, I guess he was like emotionally hurt about it, maybe devastated, right? It was a lot that was going on in Big's mind, because all this stuff could have been prevented, even with the whole instigation of where Diddy kept on going back to Los Angeles, even though nobody was fucking with them at the time. And they was pissed because everybody knew what was going on at that time, was very pissed. They was getting booed out the building and shit like that. He was just antagonizing the situation, like, ha ha, your man just dead, and he's in fucking Shook's in the hospital, whatever, right? We basically did this to y'all. We basically did this to you. And Biggie was like, you know, I feel something off about this, because he kept on having nightmares and dreams about somebody coming from. Basically, it was a premonition. Like, he had a premonition and he had signs, you know, maybe signs from God probably telling him like, yo, you gonna be coming home soon. You gonna be coming home soon. If he was having dreams about like somebody's going to kill him, and then what the fuck happened? What happened? He's in the car, bop bop bop. He gets shut up and he's also dead, right? Then you can look at that as retaliation to what happened to Tupac, because we all knew that Shook wasn't gonna stand for this, and obviously we knew Shook probably also had something involved with this as well, of Biggie's death. I would assume so. I think probably Shook has something to do with Biggie's death, and Diddy has something to do with Tupac's death. But when you really think about everything that happened, you could blame it all on Diddy, because Diddy was the one that instigated it. He was the one that was jealous of the friendship of what Biggie and Tupac had, and he broke the shit up. He broke the shit up. Now, granted, I understand when Shook went on stage and he said that comment about, like, yeah, record producers is always jumping in people's music videos. Okay. He threw a little jab out there. He could have just, you know, been cordial about it and said, all right, Shook said what he said, that's it. But we understand the 90s was a very hot and violent time. Very hot and violent time compared to now. Right? So he took it as, you know what, I want some get back. I want some payback. But the real kicker with throughout the entirety of the documentary series was his asphyxiation for sleeping with people's girlfriends and people's side pieces. Like when one what's his face? Albie Shores, when he was messing around with, I think, Kim Porter, I think. Then he gets with her, and then it was another woman, right? Another rapper had, and then he wants to get with her too, and then says you can't be friends with him and shit like that, and then he beats her into the fucking pavement, and then a year later she has Justin, which is crazy, which is fucking crazy, right? Which is fucking crazy. Okay, you had that situation that took place, right? And then Kim Porter, right? She was with Diddy for a very, very fucking long time. They had a couple of kids with each other, and then that's when they talked about the whole Cassie bit, and it was like, okay, there was Cassie, right? And then Cassie, Diddy saw something in her, but we knew there was more to the story, that when she was 19 and he was saying, "Oh, you gonna call me Pop Pop," even though that was her saying, well, telling Diddy the story, that's what she used to tell her, I think, grandfather. Then he was like, "Well, you gonna call me that?" And then we knew more about certain things from what was given to us outside of the documentary about what Cassie was explaining about the relationship and the violent relationship that she had with Diddy, right? And then, as we all seen the video where he beated her and shit like that, but then it was also more to it, where she wanted to be a mom. She wanted to have Diddy's baby and be married to him, but Diddy never seen her like that. He just seen her as a trophy, as, if you don't do what I say, I beat the shit out of you, right? I thought they was going to talk about the Punisher, but they talked about this other guy, I think Howard Clayton, right? And he was explaining he was part of the freak off team for 8 years, where douse you up in baby oil, this and that. And then that's when now it was crazy too, because he said, yeah, they was collecting samples of his man juices. And he said, why would you be collecting my samples? And that's when he explained, like, well, sometimes she wants to drink it and shit like that. I'm like, yeah, all right, Diddy. Maybe part of that could be true, but he was probably most likely doing that shit. Because as we got into later on, where it was this other rapper, let me see if I could pull him up here if I got him. Little Rod. Fucking Little Rod here, right? Don't know nothing about him. I don't know if I could be so wrong. No, that's Rod Wave. Because I was gonna say that's the one who made Hard on My Sleeve. No, not him. The different guy. I think, right? Different guy, right? And he was explaining, oh boy. So I think I would have killed Diddy. I'm sorry. I think I would have I would have killed him. It's like something bad would have happened to him. Because how is it that he said that, okay, everybody's, having a good time and shit like that. Next time, some mornings he will wake up in the bed with women. Other times he's waking up in bed next to Diddy, and then he's all sore and shit. And then he said Diddy was sending him videos of a man getting penetrated. I said, huh? What you mean he's sending you videos of a white man getting penetrated? Fuck you talking about? And he said, yeah, that's what he was sending him. But he didn't want to go too far into the details, but we clearly know that that's what most likely happened. And then you jump back into, I guess, the 90s, where Kirk was explaining that Diddy also essayed him too. I said, he did what? Oh, damn. But see, it also goes back to what Shook was explaining about this Clive Davis person, where he was like I think a record producer, or he's a very powerful person within the music industry, because that's when Diddy had to get the money for Biggie's, I guess, album. Yeah, he had to get the money from him for like the album and shit like that. But it all goes back to what Suge Knight said about him, where he said that, yeah, he most likely put Diddy onto that, right? And then there was also reports that apparently somebody said that during the freak offs, Diddy was kissing a very powerful man. He was old, right? An older guy, and he was kissing him on the lips. And everybody said, we all know who it is, but you just can't say his name. And now it's starting to make me think that, what if it was Clive Davis? What if what Suge Knight was actually saying was actually true, right? What if it was? Because again, we've heard his name, we've heard Russell Simmons, even though Russell Simmons is a different story, but we've heard stories on him too. But it just makes me wonder: is Clive Davis, was he the one? Was he like Diddy's real teacher and mentor? After hold on, let me pull it up again because I'm starting to forget so many damn people. After Andre Harold, after Andre Harrell? Like, what is it? Was he the best mentor after him? Because yes, Andre Harrell taught him the business and taught him to, for everything to go to you. Everything needs to be you. You need to be number one. But here's how things get crazy. He had already all of these artists, and I know a lot of people talked about this because I remember the stories. A lot of people talked about this, that he had a lot of artists. He screwed every single one of them over. They said, "Yo, where's my money?" Little Rod, same thing with him. He said he still never got his $29,000, even though when the album dropped and it was a lot of promotion and a lot of stuff for it, and I think it was a success. You would think he would have got more from it. He didn't get nothing. Then like that music, those musical groups that Diddy had, fucking, they didn't even get a lick of money. Even when the woman was explaining about how she looked through the contract and the lawyer told her, he said, "Listen, you're gonna get famous, but you're not gonna get no money." And it's like, what you mean? Like, you're not gonna get no money? If I get it, because people say it's Diddy, it's Bad Boy, this and that. So she said, "All right, fuck it, I go with the fame, but not with the money." And I'm like, that's a bad idea. I get it, because anybody in that situation would have went with, well, I'd rather be famous, but you want to have both. You want to be famous and rich, not just have the fame and no money, and have him pay for everything, and then he can cut you at any second, and you're left broke. That's how he was getting people. He was like, how it was explained, a master manipulator. I'm going to get you to give me everything that you have, all of the talent and everything, but at the same time, you're not going to have nothing. And that's how he always left them, broke and empty. He did them all dirty. Even the 25% he had in there with Kirk, and he had a baseball bat over his fucking shoulders and was like, "You're going to give me that 25% because I need it." Because he cut him out eventually too when Kirk didn't want to do certain things. So he not only couldn't keep the money or keep his 25%, he also said, "You're fired as well." After he didn't want to apply to to Diddy's demands, he didn't want to apply to his demands. So eventually, he cut him loose. So Diddy fucked over a lot of people, and here's how this works, because obviously he broke up the friendship between Biggie and Tupac, right? Then when Biggie died, that's when he was able to get his accolations, because when I think an album or music that he made was so popular and it blew up, it only blew up because he was riding off the death of Biggie. That's how he was able to also blow up as well. Obviously, the whole incident that happened at City College with the whole event, like that sporting event that they had, and 9 people actually died, which I didn't even know about. I was like, oh shit, like that happened. I was like, oh wow, right? And he also got famous for that. But then here's how he got famous twice over death. Think about this cycle. Think about this crazy cycle. He got famous and popular through to death. That's how a sick cycle like him works, and that's how fucked up it is that he was only able to get successful due to death, right? And manipulation on the highest order. And when you think about it, you would think that somebody would have tried to come for him like they did to Shook. Like, you would think there would have been men looking for him, but clearly nobody came for him like that. I'm quite surprised that a lot of people that he screwed over, you would think that somebody would have been out for him. But because he had protection and the devil's luck on his side, he was able to get through a lot. And then for this man to even say something about like God and say that, yeah, he's the second coming of Jesus, or I said, no, friend. No, my friend, you have the devil's spirit in you. You have a devil's spirit. I'm not going to go to that extreme and say you have him in your soul. No, you have a devil's spirit in you, which allowed him to do all this mischief and all this crazy shit and manipulating people, and for him to get away with this for years. We saying a 30+ year career of him destroying people's lives. Even Joy Dickerson, like, even what he did to her, it was like, okay, she's unconscious and shit like that, and then he did stuff to her, and then she's remembering, and her mother is writing letters to his mother and saying that your son did this and that, and he's on his knees begging and pleading, saying, "Oh, I never did this. I promise you," but she knows that he did it. Then other women claim that he did things to them as well, right? Then his ex best friend co-founder of Bad Boy, even said he did things to me. Little Rod said he did things to me. I said, golly. And then when they had the whole, I guess, Harlem, I guess, nightclub or the rooftop party in Harlem, and they was also talking about like this drug dealer, big time drug dealer named Alpo Martinez, right, the mayor of Harlem, and how he envied these people, but there was also a show of respect that he had because of how popular and how big they were at the time. Because Alpo was he was a big fucking deal. He was a big fucking deal when he was moving weight through, I think, Brooklyn or Bronx, right? And then eventually he moved over to DC. I think he killed his best friend. I think the story on him, I think he either killed his best friend or some shit actually happened, but he was moving a lot of fucking weight. He did some drugs, he did time, and then eventually he came back to Harlem, and then he died in Harlem, right? So that his whole story was fucking crazy, right? His story was fucking crazy, but he admired guys like him, right? Because he figured, well, because his father was a big shot. Now, the way he's claiming the story, the way how Diddy was claiming the story, as if his father was actually like Bumpy Johnson or Frank Lucas, right? Here's the thing though, you don't hear anybody made a story about Diddy's dad like, oh yeah, Diddy's dad was this and that. No, the only story that we've ever heard on him is that they said that, well, there was claims that he even knew Bumpy Johnson, may have worked for Bumpy, right? That's the only stories we've heard, or he might have known Frank Lucas. That's the only stories we've ever heard about him. But again, if he done something outside of New York City, that's fine. But if it's not that, then it's only the claim of him knowing or possibly working for Bumpy, or maybe knowing Frank Lucas and possibly working for Frank. That's the only two claims that anybody can go off of. But he was not a big time guy. He wasn't like a what was his name? Frank Barnes either. He wasn't him. He wasn't any of like the big time drug dealers back in the days. He was probably in the realm of it, right? Like more of in the discussion. He was probably in the discussion, but his name was never big enough to be put on the paper like that. Only be big enough to be put on the paper as, yeah, he was I want to say part-time. I'm not going to say that. I would say he was part in the top tier echelons of a drug dealer, but he wasn't like a big time name. He was like a big fish, like a medium fish. He was like a medium fish in a big pond. Let's just say that. That's what he was. Or a small fish in a big pond. Let's just say that, right? And he's idolized that. He looked up to that. He worshipped that and was like, his destiny was to be king, right? So he screwed over so many people, so much destruction in his 30+ year career of what he did, even with the whole shooting in the nightclub situation, which nobody also wanted to talk about, where the gun was also in Jennifer Lopez's bag, right? And he had a guy take 10 years and for something that he clearly didn't do, had him do 10 years for it, right? And I'm pretty sure the people that he screwed over, besides Cassie, who I think when there was that whole settlement thing, I know she got, I think, some money from the settlement, I think, that they had previously, but not the trial that happened, but I think like another trial, a previous case that they was involved with. Now, a lot of people did say that Cassie is not really innocent because she was participating in the freak-offs. You can look at it both ways. You could say it as he was a very powerful man. He could get to her at any point in time. You could look at it as that because that is true, right? But then at the same time, you can look at it as like she could have called the cops. She could have recorded. She could have done something to have gotten Diddy arrested a very long time ago, but never really happened. And also, from what they also explained about the documentary about Diddy and his son Justin. Justin is very interesting to me because we've heard his name be praised more than the other son. Like, yeah, they was in a room and somebody was getting shot and shit, and they walked out like gangsters. I'm like, okay, so is he trying to prop his son? But from what was said, it seems like he's not trying to prop his sons to take over. It's more like, well, if they down for the fun, I want to be down for the fun, and nobody says no to him. Otherwise, he flips out and somebody might get their ass beat. So, yeah, Diddy was a very violent man. Very fucking violent man with so much connection, so much pull that it makes you look at him in a different light. Because when he came out to Harlem and he said, oh man, he was meeting people and shit like that. And like was said in the documentary, like you only come back to Harlem when you need them. But then he's in the car saying, "Oh man, I need a shower. All them damn people, I was hands shaking. Oh, I need to be fucking doused in peroxide and boiling hot water for how disgusting I felt with these fucking people. Ew, fucking roaches." Because like was said, he didn't hang around black people very long time because he was so into the rich world and being around so many rich people and famous people, is that the little people was dirt to him, even though at the time he had to be with the little people to get his name so that way he could be part of something great and big. But since he's a billionaire and he has all this money, it's like, oh, these fucking people, oh, I'm disgusted, right? That's how he felt. But it just shows you so much about how fucking cruel, how sadistic, how fucked up he is, how twisted he is, right? Of the ways he was thinking, how he was manipulating, how he was essaying men and women for fucking years. And he got away with it. Nobody came for him because either they was too afraid of him, right? But here's the thing. Despite him saying his claim to be king, right, he was still that same little boy that was the nerdy, and it's I don't want to put it that way, but that's what it seems like. Yeah, he was like the nerdy kid, right, that fought to get what he want, right, thought he had a destiny to uplift, right, tried to live in his father's shadow, right, but then he was just this weird guy that just wanted to go around people's girlfriends and side pieces for that matter to take them and say, well, I took your girl, now I'm king. It's fucking weird. He was just a weird guy that got lucky, but he only got lucky due to the devil's luck. See, I was going to compare this man to Griffith. This story sort of reminds me of a Berserk story, like a Griffith story, where he was destined to be king, even though Griffith didn't have a dad, but even though that was a different topic too, but it just reminded me of Berserk for some weird reason. Like, this is what he was on. He's on that Griffith type of timing. Fuck that shit. That's what it reminds me of. Fucking Griffith. But even though different. Same principle, but different story. Maybe a little bit similar in some aspects, but you know what I mean. But, man, fucking Diddy. Fucking Diddy. And I know people wanted him to do more and shit like that. Now, I know Kalani was here's how he manipulated her, and she doesn't realize this. Okay, she's having problems with her kid and trying to get custody and shit like that because her kid was going to be taken away. Because granted, she was part of that Dirty Money group, and I remember that too, like that song fucking back in the days in 2010 2011 when they was like, oh yeah, Dirty Money, and I think they was the ones that made that song Love Come Down. Everybody and their mama was playing that. Make the love come down. I let you. That shit was kind of hard back in the days. Like, I kind of like that song. I kind of liked it, but they was part of that group, and he manipulates her, and he's like, "Well, I can't help you. It's only $5,000 and a lawyer. And you telling me you couldn't provide any of that?" And she was still sort of like loyal to him, but then when it was his turn, calling her up, yo, why Dawn suing? What's wrong with her, gang? Why she suing? I need your help. And here's how fucked up it is, because she was like, oh, wow, you know this is wrong, right? Because when I asked you for help, right, you didn't want to help me, but now, you want me to help you now because you in trouble, because you're afraid to go to prison and shit like that. He like, nah, man, what's wrong with this bitch? Why she doing this to me? I need help, right? So she was still in defense of him, like, well, I didn't really see anything of what happened, which is true, because whatever stuff that Diddy was doing, it was behind her back and other people's back who may have not seen what he was doing, may have heard things, right, but may have not seen it. So you could give her that benefit of the doubt, but you can't deny the fact that you still heard things from a lot of people who she was in those circles with, that, yeah, he did things, right? Or you heard rumblings about, oh, he did some shit, right? Can't deny that. But she was still like, I love him and he's still my friend and shit like that. It's like, but he's manipulating her to think that way. He knows when to turn it off, and he knows when to show a side to certain people, right? I call that, friends, a two-faced devil. See, the devil will show you two sides to his face. The face would be, I'm going to show you the side that's going to make you fear me, the side that's going to make you hate me. right? And then I'm gonna show you a side that's gonna make you absolutely adore me and make me the first in your mind that you think about every night before going to bed. That's the side that he showed her. He showed her the nice side to him that, well, I'm this and that. I don't know what the people's is talking about. He's a two-faced devil. He knows when to turn it off and when to turn it on and when to show it to certain people. So with Cassie was a victim of it too because he was a two-faced devil. He showed her two sides. He showed her the violent side of, you're going to fear me. And then he turned it back on and he showed her, well, this is how you love me. The off part is when you see the devil. The on part is when you see the love. There's a two different side to that. That's a disconnect for what people don't really realize with the situation. Even though there was people who were celebrating when he was acquitted on some of the charges and they was throwing baby oil into the street, not knowing that you're an idiot because you're celebrating a person who didn't really give two shits about you, and frankly stolen a lot from the music business because he didn't. Most of those people that was with him wasn't getting paid like that. They didn't get paid at all. They got screwed over, or maybe for a little bit of money. Even that Craig Mack guy, when he like the what was it, the flavor song, right? How the fuck he's fucking broke and he's like, yo, I need money. You would think of a song that he made that went platinum. You would fucking think he's making all types of millions of dollars. No, he's broke. Here's $100. You fucking. You would think somebody would have fucking just clocked this shit. Like, I get paid $100. Where's my millions? I had my shit went platinum and I don't see millions. Yeah, gang. Here's $100 out of the money that's owed to you. That's like, wow. That's fucking crazy. That is just nuts to me. That is nuts to me. Like, wow. Absolutely fucking crazy of how he did this to so many people. So many fucking people. And he got away with it. But like I said, if Biggie and Tupac were still alive and they was able to survive like that 90s beef and that war, that West Coast, East Coast shit, yeah. Those two would have done more music together. They would have been more friends. Possibly Tupac would have convinced Biggie to leave Diddy and join him in Death Row. I believe so. I think that would have happened, which would have pissed off Diddy, and probably he would have wanted them both killed. I think that's what would have happened. But then at the same time, Shook was no better either because I heard some stories on Shook too. So they would have had to maybe actually, you know what? Here's the future, the alternate future I would have given y'all. He would have convinced him to join Death Row. Then after when Dr. Dre left and did his own thing and formed that thing Aftermath. I think that's what it's called. I think Aftermath. We formed that. And then it was Eminem and 50 Cent. Imagine this powerful duo. Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, Tupac, and Biggie. You would have looked at the most powerful declarated group of all fucking time. And also Eminem's group, his side group that he had D12. But even though that group would have ended due to reasons, but you would have had D12 and then Eminem, like I said, Eminem, 50 Cent, Tupac, and Biggie. That's the alternate ending. That's the alternate future. And I'm telling you, that would have been absolutely powerful. You would have looked at like the most declarated rap group of all fucking time. Even though they would have not been a group, but you know how it is. They would have jumped on each other's tracks, right? And they would have said some shit. Oh my God. It's like 50 Cent and Biggie. Eminem and Tupac. I mean, they done some work. Did they do work together? Oh my God, I don't think they did. I could be so wrong. I don't know if they did. I don't think they did. I don't know if they did. I have to look it up. I don't think they did. But just imagine those two on a track together. Oh my God, that would have been powerful. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. Diddy took all of that away, and that beef that happened should have never happened. It fucking just ruined something that could have been absolutely great. Those two would have been alive till this day, still going at it, right? Not at each other, but just going at it on the mic, and then Tupac is just basically eating alive some of these fake ass rappers, and then Biggie's on his chill time, right? Not trying to go after no man. fuck you, Diddy. Just fuck you. You fucked over a lot of people. 5 years is not enough. They should have gave this man fucking life and threw the book at him. This shit ain't enough. But oh, Diddy, you fucker. You always gotta ruin things at the last minute. All because you got a twisted devil inside your damn soul. What the fuck? But this documentary was really, really good. It was really good. It was good. A lot of shit that I didn't know about. A lot of stuff that a lot of people didn't know about, but it was good. It was absolutely good. But let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about the documentary? Like, do you believe this shit was bullshit? Right? Do you think that this was just 50 Cent's way of trying to get back at Diddy? Or do you believe that, yeah, Diddy was the sole reason why we didn't really have the alternate future that I suggested of having the biggest rap group in history of Eminem, 50 Cent, Tupac, and Biggie, right? The biggest group ever. Fucking biggest group ever, right? And there would have been something. It would have been absolutely something. Absolutely something, right? Also, keep in mind, I'm not too sure if Tupac and Dr. Dre ever had any heat with each other. I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. I got to go back in my notes to see if there was any heat. But I highly doubt it, though. I highly doubt it. But as always, this has been your boy Third Street. Like and subscribe, and I catch you all in the next one.